Hi, I'm Mac.
I'm Ben,
And I'm Noah.
We are.
the host of
Cut That Shit Out. Cut That Shit Out is a podcast where we discuss the latest pet peeves of ours. We talk about shit that's in the news, stuff that's really changing our community. And, you may not agree with us, but we hope that you come with an open mind and listen to what we have to say.
And we just ask that you cut that shit out.
All right, let's get this started. Welcome to another episode of Cut That Shit Out, episode 4. And for this week's show, we have two special guests, Bree and 80. Thank you guys for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
First topic of discussion I want to hit on, obviously because of recency. Yesterday was 4th of July, as with the day we're recording, July 5th. How was this year different, this 4th of July different to you guys as far as celebrating the holiday and whatnot?
This year was kind of hard to celebrate because, everything that's going on in the news. Of course, I wore red, white, and blue because I am proud to be an American. But then at the same time, I'm siding with the movement as well. That's why I always have my bracelet on, Black Lives Matter. And yesterday, I met a new neighbor of mine who's also African American, and that was cool. But she felt the same way. She's like, you know what? This year, I don't feel safe going out with the pandemic. And, with the movement, you don't know if police are going to be, extra hard this year. So I'd rather just stay home. And, with the police now with the rubber bullets doing major damage to people, we just both decided, hey, let's just stay home and, just be with the family, and met a new friend. So
Nice.
That's tight. Well, I mean, for me, I would say it was it's different, man. Like I always celebrated 4th of July. But this year I didn't participate at all. I didn't go outside my house. I stayed home. One of those reasons being that my people are in cages right now, and I don't agree with that at all whatsoever. And this is someone later on we'll talk about it, but this is someone that's I don't ever consider myself too much on either side of the spectrum. I like to be in between. I like to hear both sides. I like to understand both sides, and there's just no excuse for what's going on right now to my people. And due to that, I can't celebrate. And we do live in an amazing country that before I feel like all this was shedding into light, that I was proud to be an American. And right now, I don't want to say that I'm not proud to be an American. It's just hard for me to understand and hard for me to cope with the idea of I guess my number one question is what does it mean to be, what does it mean to me right now in this time to be an American?
Yeah.
And same, I've only celebrated 4th of July maybe twice my whole life. I'm almost 30 years old, right? And this year it hit a lot harder for me because you're sitting down and you're watching, like he said, you got the kids and the Latinos in the cages, right? So there's this illustration that I've seen, and it says whites reach for the stars, black and browns behind bars. That's the symbolism of the flag, right? So if you think about that, what are we celebrating really? The independence, which they technically, they got their independence and July 4th, 1976. 1776, sorry. 1776. When did black people get their freedom? June 19th?
1865.
1865. Do the math. What independence are we celebrating?
Yeah.
Yours or ours? Or everybody's? Which one? Right? You gotta give the people something to celebrate. It can't just be your celebration of your political parties or whatever else you want to celebrate, but while everybody else is suffering in the background,
Yeah, I want to add on to that. So Americans, they said that they got their independence in 1776, 4th of July, 1776. But how can you be independent when you're still dependent on slavery?
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
The economy, man, it was built on slavery. I don't know if you guys checked out that podcast I sent you guys from 1619, but just to touch on that real quick, and we'll go back to July 4th. Slavery really skyrocketed U.S., a relatively young country, to be super profitable with cotton, right? Because they had a bunch of people picking cotton, and then they were exporting it to different countries, and it became this hot commodity. And yeah, but it was, they made so much profit, and they became a really wealthy country fast because they weren't paying those low-end workers, and they've never really been able to recuperate from that. They still want to remain at the top, the early success that they had, but they just never found that. To me, though, for 4th of July, just to go back to what we were talking about, I never really celebrated either. I think up until like 10 years old, my parents stopped getting together and we just do like our own thing, like uncles and aunts.
Right.
But I think this year for me, it felt a little different just to watch. So I just went and got an Airbnb with my girlfriend and we stayed out in like Orange County, was Westminster area. But it was weird to see like so many people like still like, doing fireworks and everything. And me like I felt like an outsider, right? And to me, I almost felt like an outsider looking in for this like American dream that America kind of sells you on, like immigrants and people of color. But I feel like we don't get a piece of that pie, like they tell us, oh, come here, especially like my parents and my grandparents come from Mexico. They immigrated here for the American dream. And the American dream is different to everybody, obviously, right? But I just feel like they sell you on that, but then when you get here, you realize how limited you are, right? And even, with all this stuff that happened this year in 2020 and stuff that's been happening for a long time, it just feels like it's really limited, especially like the migrant workers, they started the Bracero program for, migrant workers to come here. And it's like, hey, you're good enough to work here, but we don't want you here, and we're going to deport you as soon as we're done working with you. And that stuff, it just hit different this year for July 4th. And, I haven't really celebrated the past couple years, so I didn't do it again. But, it was just, I really felt like an outsider this year, just looking at everybody else put fireworks up and their Snapchat stories or whatever. It was just, I felt like an outsider this year.
Yeah, or to an extent, I feel like you feel bitter.
Yeah, almost.
Like a part of me felt bitter because it's the same people. Like, I don't know. To me, it was like some of these people were chanting Black Lives Matter.
True.
And then going crazy on George Floyd, and we're talking so much about like the kids in the cages and all these crazy other conspiracy theories, but you're still gonna go out and you're still gonna do your thing, and you're gonna go celebrate the country, and I'm not saying that it's wrong, but personally, like I just felt bitter towards it because I'm just like, man, like it's almost like you're almost being two-faced. Like what is it exactly that you're trying to do here?
Yeah,
It's
just
exactly.
It's just so amazing to me that we're bringing up constant conflicts that is trending right now, but people often forget that we are also still in a pandemic right now.
Yeah. That part.
We almost forget about it because everything else has happened. So much has happened this year where we're like, wow, there's still a pandemic going on. But just to add on what you were saying, 80, is just, I think we all want to be a part of that. Like it's not that I hate on 4th of July and the reason for it. Don't get me wrong. I think it'd be cool to be a part of that and have such pride for a nation. But I just feel like that nation, I can't be prideful of it yet, completely, 100%. I'm not saying I hate being American because I understand like us being able to protest, even having this podcast and being able to voice our opinion is the most American thing. Because if you go somewhere in the Middle East or other countries, you say bad against their government, you can get your head cut off, that kind of shit. So
this 4th of July just hits me differently because an Army soldier in Fort Hood by the name of Vanessa Guillen was killed, was sexually assaulted, sexually harassed, and being killed on base, which she is fighting for the homeland, and the system failed to protect her.
Richard Pryor said it best. Just us, being indicted, tried, and convicted based on the hue of the color of our skin. Basically, no matter what we do, we could literally just stand right here and just mind our own business. The government's just gonna see us as the enemy. The moment that we all decide that we all come together, like for the protests, you saw there were whites, Hispanics, you name it. Yeah. Everybody was out there protesting, right? So that when everybody started coming together, becoming a bigger community than what we were before. That's when we'll start celebrating Independence Day, when the government start realizing that we are one community, we are all human beings, we all have basic human rights, we all have our voices that need to be heard. And if we're not heard, then that's when shit start hitting the fan, and they need to start listening a little bit more and being more open-minded. Because then it just screws it up for everybody else.
Can I ask you something, bro?
What's up?
Do you think that goes for both sides, or do you think that just goes for one side?
No, it goes for everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it is, because, for example, we talked about this. When we do this podcast, like we talk about like how we're saying defund the cops, this and this and that, right?
Yeah.
But also, we also want to have a police officer come in and join our podcast. So if you are a police officer and you have something to say, we will take you in and listen to your story. But there's two sides to every story,
Yeah.
right? Everybody has their own opinions to what they feel. We want to listen to you and also have you listen to us. We don't have to agree with what the other side is saying.
Yeah.
But we can listen and
Exactly.
understand each other.
Thank you.
You know?
Yeah. I agree with you, like on every aspect of that. I think that a lot of times we spend too much time focusing on us, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Also as Americans, we're also very selfish people. You know, like we live in a country where, like I said, like this is an amazing country to live in. You know, is there a lot of bad things happening? 100%. But like we're spoiled as human beings.
Yeah.
You know, we're not facing the same issues that a third world country would face, or any other country. You know, that like there's always a double-edged sword is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And I think that a lot of times we focus so much on ourselves that we tend to forget that we need to coexist with human beings.
Yes.
We need to,
And nature.
yeah, and exactly. And we need to learn to love more even when we don't agree with the other person.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things we struggle with the most is trying to understand even if you don't completely get it. So like agree to disagree more often than we actually should.
Right.
You know, I actually wrote like a whole like poetry skit on this, and I say like I just go about it and being like, hey, you know what, I got so many homies. You know, I got homies that are black, that don't commit crimes, that are educated black individuals. I got Mexican homies that aren't like illegal, they came in legally. I got Asian homies that aren't sick, and I also got white homies that aren't racist.
Yeah.
And I think that when we will learn to actually like when I guess my question is like, when will we learn to be more open-minded to understanding that it's not always our opinion.
But see, that's the thing though. Like, you have people. You ever heard the saying, you could teach old dogs new tricks, but they don't necessarily have to follow them, right?
Right.
It's the same thing when people are conformed to their mindset.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to get them to see your point of view.
Yeah.
Right. You could literally sit there and tell the dog, "Hey, sit." The dog will look at you like, "Okay, what are you telling me?
Yeah.
I see your movement. I see what you're saying, but why should I listen?"
Exactly.
Right? And that's the same concept with the American society. Like, we need to find a way to explain things to people to where they understand exactly what you're saying and how you're saying it. Like I said,
Yeah.
I don't need you to agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just listen to it,
Yeah.
absorb it, find a way to learn something from it, learn one thing from it,
Yeah.
and then go about your day.
But you know what?
Exactly.
But you know what? This is also an issue that I feel like a lot of people deal with, is that they're never. I don't think people learn from seeing things. There's certain people,
yeah.
you know, that there's certain people that can. I'm not saying that they can't, but there's people that need to experience what it's like in order to do
Right.
that. And the way that things are heading, and I'm so proud to say this, but minorities are starting to become more of the population
Yeah,
than it
majority.
actually was back then, where it was predominantly white.
Yeah.
And I think that's so amazing, because what's happening is that tables are slowly turning.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're starting to see a lot of people like starting to understand. It's like, oh wait, hold on, like now I'm turning into the minority,
Yeah.
and
They're
that
afraid, I
exactly, and that scares a lot of people. Predominantly, you know, the white race that is against our beliefs and against what we believe in.
Yeah, the people in power, people high up in the government. But going back to what you were saying too, I think people need to live a day in your shoes, right? I think that's why I think traveling is so key. And people think, oh, you have to travel outside the world. Just travel to Arizona, travel to Colorado, travel to Missouri, travel to Sacramento, Oakland, the Bay Area. Like, it's different culture wherever you go.
Right.
And I feel like you put yourself in other people's shoes just for like a day, a week maybe. I know obviously it's expensive, and that's, you know, one thing that's like a downside of capitalism. It's hard for people like us in lower income communities to go everywhere across the country even. But this is, you know, I feel like the more I travel and the more I meet new people from different areas, like we're all pretty much similar. You know, we all have similar concepts, especially, you know, even religion. Like, it doesn't matter what religion you are. We all kind of believe in
something,
right? And all of our religions kind of preach love and positivity and, you know,
Yeah.
don't do harm to thy neighbor and stuff like that. But I just feel like sometimes we, you know, that's why I didn't, not to get too much into religion, but I'm not a fan of organized religion because sometimes you seclude yourself, you know?
That part.
You know, you're like, hey, I'm this religion, so I got to stick with only people of my religion. And there's, you know, from going back to the Crusades and all that kind of stuff, there's been a lot of wars over holy stuff and religion and all that. So,
or even the ideas of it too.
yeah, over the ideas of it too. But I feel like a lot of the concepts, if you had took like a multicultural class in, you know, community college or even like at a high school level and incorporate that, maybe even elementary school, so the kids understand what a day in Ramadan is like, what a day in celebrating Kwanzaa is like, celebrating Hanukkah is like, and just more, you know, not saying you have to pick that up as an adult, and we're not trying to push that onto people, but just experience it once so you can see people from the other perspective and kind of gain their perspective on things.
Yeah, you know, our buddy Naif.
Yeah.
I actually talked to him a lot about that, and I actually tell him like, "Hey, dude, I know like I probably won't participate the whole time through, but like, I want to see what it's like to fast for a full week."
Yeah, I did it for one Saturday.
Yeah,
so
it
was a really dope experience because he explained it to us. He had his family members on a Zoom call because obviously COVID, we couldn't meet up, but we broke fast, and you know, we had a Zoom call. He talked about what it meant to him and his family members, and there was a few other non-Islamic or non-Muslim people that participated. So it was really cool that he did that for us.
But if you think about it, the two go hand in hand too, right? Religion, race, right?
Yeah.
When people believe in religion, religion is what is man-made, right?
Yeah.
Because they give you a set of rules that you have to abide by, and whatever. Same thing with race. You go to whatever you feel comfortable with. You know, like for example, it starts when you're young. Mm-hmm. And these kids, like, if their parents, like, they live in predominantly white neighborhoods, right? So what are these kids surrounded by? Bunch of white kids. So when they go to school, what are they going to go towards? The white friends. Mm-hmm. When they go to college, when they get into business world, what are they going to go towards? The white people. Same thing with whatever minority, because that's what we're around. That's what we grow. That's what we see every single day. Yeah. But if we, as a society, find a way to make that better, right? So start picking one or two, plotting them into different sections. Just like you said, get put into each other's shoes, understanding the whole concept behind. It's you really won't have change unless we start doing little things like that. Just little things.
That's actually the biggest issue in the United States right now. Where I remember taking America government last year, and I was taught this term where it's called gentrification. Yeah. Where they section off richer income families into one area, and then the poor with the poor. So that's why when I look at it, when I was just talking to a friend last night about this, and that's why I feel like within the Garden Grove Unified School Districts, there's 10 high schools there. Why is there a need for 10 high schools to be in one district? Mm-hmm. Because of the gentrification, the division of each high school. So each family members that wants to go to, let's say, a richer high school, where a more well-funded high school, they can't. They have to go to the one that is closer to them, and that blocks off, like
opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what sucks about it, man. Because we're all literally being sectioned off little by little, and it's like there's this big wall right there. No matter how hard, like we could get like a pickaxe, try to break through that barrier. No matter how hard we try to break through that barrier, how much deeper are we gonna get in if they keep building, right? Putting spackle or putting new bricks behind it as much as you hit it, And that's what we need to. We as us in this room right here, we're doing something, but we need to do more, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I agree. And
go ahead.
I wanted to go back on something. So I know we all didn't participate this year in 4th of July, and we have our reasons, And just like right here, it says the Declaration of Independence, which was celebrated on July 4th, 1776, it states that all men are created equal. And today, we are not equal, so that's one. We have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Lives are being taken left and right.
Right.
All men are not created equal. If we're created equal, then why, if a white lady goes into the store, she's not getting followed. Take my black ass in the store, I'm getting followed. Right. Someone's hovering over me when I'm trying to pay for my stuff at the register,
Right.
or they're hovering over me when I'm trying to buy some alcohol. I'm not gonna steal your alcohol. My money's green too, player.
Yep.
You know.
What when they said all men are created equal, they meant to say all white men are created equal.
Mm-hmm.
But see, we were still slaves back then, so they weren't talking about us.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, they
Colored
were using
people were still considered inferior compared to white people.
right. They were using the Asian X population to build the railroads. They were using the Latins to do everything else, and the black to pick cotton.
Wait,
We weren't all created equal.
They took the land from the Native
From
Americans,
Americans, right.
to build cotton fields.
Yeah, I just learned a lot about that Mount Rushmore, that whole thing when that happened, and that blew my mind too. And I was
That
like,
was on native land as
that
well.
was on
right?
native land, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Especially
That's
where
crazy.
it's located. Like if you look at it, it's surrounded by a bunch of forests. The Apaches, I can't name all the tribes, but like
There's
the,
a lot. There was a lot.
the
Here.
ones that
There's a lot
were
of them.
mainly populated in that area, they just literally went under them and just picked them up with a shovel and just tossed them to the side.
Yeah.
Or do you remember? I want to say this was like a couple years back, where they were doing the same thing, but there was like a bunch of Native Americans that there was like I don't know what it was about, but
Was it the pipeline?
the pipeline.
Yeah.
It was about the pipeline.
From Alaska to I forgot where it ended out here in the U.S., but it ran all the way through, and it ran through a lot of native land.
Yeah, and it ran through and a lot of people were pissed about it.
I don't even know why we call them Native Americans. They're the real Americans.
Exactly.
This is their
Yeah.
land. This is their land.
Yeah.
Like they're not natives. We're the natives.
Yeah,
We're
it-
all natives.
It's weird, like you were saying too, when they were writing the Constitution for this country, this United States of America, there was so much like hypocrisy going in it, you know, like even that sentence, all men are created equal, they didn't really mean all men. And they did so much wrong, like you said, you stole land and everything. But I did want to go back and ask you about the Garden Grove and the school thing, because we all did or do work with kids. In a city like Garden Grove or even Santa Ana, or just wherever city you live in, you think it's possible to have just one school for like one town? Because I just feel like a lot of cities are really overpopulated, and like you would have to like really make a, like let's say Garden Grove High School is the only high school in Garden Grove, you would need like a shit ton of teachers,
Right.
principals, counselors, and a lot more campus, a bigger campus, you know?
I mean, you said how many schools are there?
10.
10. So
10 high school in Garden Grove Unified School Districts.
okay. I mean, I don't think they need that many schools. To be honest, you probably could use maybe 5 or 6. I grew up back home in South Florida, and in my general vicinity, I lived in a city called Boynton Beach, right? It's almost as small as Garden Grove, if not a little bit bigger, right? We had 2 high schools, 2. Boynton Beach High School, and then the little private high school that I went to. That was it. That's all we had in our little area. And then you go another city over, there's 2 high schools. Another city over, there's 2. It's all about like, because we were all diverse over there. It's all about, we have a bunch of like Latinx people, a bunch of blacks, whites. It didn't matter, man. We didn't care what you were. We just went to school, we minded our business, and we went home, made sure we got our grades. That was it. But I don't think you need that many high schools. But at the same time, though, if you think about it, Garden Grove is an area. I'm saying the truth. A lot of people, they come fresh off the boat, right? So they're tunnel vision.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on. So they have tunnel vision. So they want their kids to go to the best. And what's the best is whatever the media is presenting to them.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to pick and choose our poison on that one.
Yeah.
Look, like I went to Los Amigos High School, which is a part of the Garden Grove Unified School District, and I live in Fountain Valley, but there's a Fountain Valley High School right down my street. Why am I required to go to Los Amigos High School instead of Fountain Valley High School?
Like you said, that's how they section people off. I know in Santa Ana too,
Redlining.
there's a lot of high schools, and Sagerstrom and Godinez are like the fundamental schools. Those are the
Exactly.
schools with more prestigious program. They put a little bit more effort
They
and
switch
resources
over.
to those kids. Why aren't they doing that for all schools? Why are their schools not doing that? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't we putting all our resources into those kids?
Funding.
Those kids are our
Funding.
future. So
Right.
I do think the amount of high schools does create a lot of delusion, because now Century and Saddleback and Santa Ana are known as the schools that are kind of on the down low,
for
right?
troubled kids.
The
and stuff.
troubled kids,
Right.
and they get reputations, and I think too it builds a little bit of like inner city rivalry, right? Like, hey, like I went to Century, like those, you know, whatever, like we're the West Siders, and then the South Siders and Saddleback, we don't like you guys because, you know, you never grew up with them. That's the thing. I feel like if you did have that one or maybe two high schools, you kind of understand each other. You put all these people from the same city, because most people who attend that high school do live in the city.
Right.
So, you know, you get them all together and they kind of unify as a city and feel more whole versus instead of sectioning them off to where now there's like little hoods and, you know, there's crews in different high schools and even crews among those high schools. So I feel like it divides it up a lot,
Right.
you know?
Kind of
Yeah, I
like
agree.
Pacifica High School and Santiago High School.
Yeah.
It's two different world.
two humongous different worlds.
Yes.
You know, I went to Santiago, and then it's crazy. So I went to Santiago, and then my homie that lives down the street from me, same neighborhood, he's supposed to go to Santiago. He asked to get transferred to Pacifica. And our values are completely different.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, the way we think is completely different. Still my close friend, still someone that I grew up going to, you know, hanging out with, spending the night at his house and doing the whole thing, you know, but right now, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, we're both two different people, you know,
Yeah.
we share different values. So
And
I
you-
definitely agree with that.
And you can tell the difference in funding when it comes to the two schools as well.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, they look like they have a professional NFL stadium at Pacifica. Over there, Santiago or Rancho, you're lucky to have a bench and a
Yeah.
track. Like, you know,
yeah. Or the track is still dirt.
mine is too
Yeah,
at Rancho.
yeah.
And
you
you're
know?
like, what? Like, you know?
A football field full of potholes too.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys
And-
ever been there?
And honestly, I feel like we need more people of color to be teachers so we could relate as well.
Yeah.
Because okay, Garden Grove Unified School District, mostly Hispanics, Asian
Asians.
Americans, few whites, and a couple blacks. But all
Don't
the
forget the
teachers,
Pacific Islanders, too.
Pacific-
Islanders.
yes, Pacific Islanders as well. But when you look at all the teachers, they're just mostly white. And I feel like some kids can't relate to them as much. And even in the history books, there's so much history out there that kids need to learn, but I feel like they just either skim over it or barely scratch the surface to the real history.
When did you guys have your first teacher that was a person of color or that was non-white?
When I went to community college.
I've always had them.
Always
Back
white?
home in Florida, no, I've always had
Oh,
of
okay,
color.
okay.
Like, I've always had them.
Okay,
I was
that's-
forced in
it's true.
there.
You grew up in Florida. It's a little
Yeah.
different.
About fourth grade.
Yeah.
Man, middle school.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you say that. I didn't think about it like that.
Mine was middle school, but there were only Spanish classes. And I
Yeah.
think in high school, same thing, the only person of color. So my first, like, outside of Spanish class was in community college as well.
But you know what's even more crazy too? All my Spanish teachers were of white complexion.
Yeah?
Yo,
Mm.
that is
Accurate.
accurate.
Yeah.
You know, so
Hella.
you can be. It's crazy because, like, for me, I wanted to touch when you were talking about the whole walking into the store. So I'm Mexican. I have dreadlocks. When I didn't have my dreadlocks, and I knew how to speak to someone properly, it would almost get waved by, like, oh, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
The minute I walked in somewhere with dreadlocks, and I'm pretty sure we can agree to this together. The minute I walked in somewhere with dreadlocks, I used to work at Irvine Spectrum at the Nordstrom. I wouldn't get half the business as my other homie that was also Mexican but looked white. And
Yeah.
the comments that came out of people's mouth were amazing to me. And I'm so grateful that I have dreadlocks because it taught me something. It taught me something that I know I would have never been able to experience if I never had them. You know? And it blows my mind, like, how ignorant people can be.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, how do you feel so comfortable saying, like, me working at Nordstrom, them saying they let you work like that? They let you work with that kind of hairstyle?
Dang.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with my hairstyle? Is it because it's not straight like yours?
Yeah.
Is it because I'm not, you know, like, and I can still be the most proper person to them, but in their eyes, I'll forever be less because of my hairstyle,
Yeah.
because of the culture that I choose to embrace. Because by all means necessary, I think this is just me personally. I think black culture is one of the most beautiful cultures aside from my culture. And we all embrace it. We all live it. everything we do, from the Jordans that touch our feet, to the way that we talk, to the music we listen to, everything is black culture.
Inventions as well.
The food we eat.
Everything is black culture, and to a certain extent, we all come from someone of color that's dark. That's of dark. If you have dark complexion, you are somewhat of, that comes from. I'm sorry, I have a horrible time deciphering my words, but
No, you're good.
fine.
You're good. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to let you guys know that I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there's this thing called the Crown Act, and the Crown Act just got passed for people of color, especially African Americans, to wear their natural hair in the workforce, in the work environment. Only 7 states have passed it, and we need 43 more states to pass this law because, when people see a man with dreads or a woman with braids or, anything besides straight hair, they call it unprofessional.
Yeah.
And I get so tired of that because that's not unprofessional. That's our culture. So you're saying our culture is unprofessional as well?
yeah, which is crazy because this land is built on immigrants.
Yeah.
This land was built on people of color, and this is the land where
Maintain too.
exactly.
Sorry about that.
Thank
but
you.
Maintain too.
Thank you, and it's just crazy to me, like they say that we're welcomed, but in my head I have to question myself and say, am I really welcome?
Mm-hmm.
We're all created equal.
Yeah,
Supposed
am I really legal?
Yeah.
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 And that's the thing too. It's always like harder for, like, especially. Okay, so I'm gonna talk to you in a sense, right? We both have dreads, right?
Yeah.
It's harder for us to get jobs.
Yep.
It's harder for us to, especially if they know you're a minority.
Yep.
First off, you're already out of the conversation. You're a minority, but you have dreads, you have your ear spits, you have this, you have tattoos, you have this. They don't even care what you have to say.
Yeah.
It's all based on your appearance, right? And that's why, like, for me, I have my dreads as a statement.
Yeah.
I started it, and I was like, people used to just look at me. They're like, oh, yeah, when he talks, I bet he's going to be like, hey, what's good, shawty, what's popping? No, I'm educated. I could speak to you like a normal fucking person. But the moment you cross that side, though, you will get the hood side of me,
They
right?
underestimate
So,
us, yeah.
right. So that's why, like, I always I present myself. For example, I had a meeting with this. I had a meeting. Let's just leave it at that. I had a meeting on Monday, and I wore a button-up shirt, slacks, shoes, everything, right?
Nice.
Like, that's just how I go to meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody else go to meetings. If they want to wear their basketball shorts, whatever, that's fine. That's your business. Me, I had my bachelor's degree in business, so I know how to dress properly.
Yeah.
So I dressed up for a meeting, and the person was like, oh, you didn't have to do this for me. I'm like, no, I did this for me.
Yeah.
You know, this is this is me.
Yeah.
This is me. You're getting me in a bunch. So just because I look a certain way does not mean I don't know how to present myself in a proper manner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because me growing up, I grew up mixed. I'm black, white, and Mexican. So, growing up, I grew up in a Hispanic household, and I was mostly raised by my white family and my Hispanic family. But as I got older, I knew that I was different. I was taller, I was darker, just stuff like that. And then, you just have to find yourself when you're a mixed kid in America. Okay, do I fit in with the white kids? No. Do I fit in with the Hispanic kids? Yeah, kind of. Do I fit in with the black kids? Yeah, I do. So, you have to find yourself. And then with my hair, yeah, it's long and stuff now, but my white and my Hispanic family could not comb my hair for the world. So you know what they did?
Yeah.
They put relaxer in my hair over and over and over. And I got so tired of it, and they put it in so much that I had all these scabs on my
Right.
scalp. And I just got so tired of it, and I told them, hey, you know what? No more. And when I hit the age of 13, I cut off all my hair till it was like right here to show my healthy curls. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do my own hair. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of having straight hair. I don't feel like myself having straight hair.
Yeah.
Like, I want to embrace my curls and embrace my culture. And, with my white family and Hispanic family, like, sometimes they didn't want to admit that I was African American because, in certain cultures, they don't like mixed kids. And
Yeah.
I do have family that doesn't associate with me because I am mixed with African American. And that's all right because they're missing out. So that's all I got to say about that. But yeah, now I grew out my hair 7 years down the line, and it's nice curly, and you know what? Now curly hair's in. Hey,
Yeah.
now having a big ass is in, right?
Yeah.
Big lips is in.
That's one thing I will admit. Like, I am proud to see the culture kind of shift towards the curly hair, because that was one thing my parents kind of suppressed on me. Was like, hey, you gotta have your hair clean cut, like you said, professional looking. Especially when I told them I wanted to be like a reporter or something like that. They're like, nah, you gotta cut your hair short. So I always had my hair relatively short, and I feel like recently I've wanted to grow it out for the reason because just as one, embrace the curls, but two, like I've never been able to, grow out this long because, I've always been told not to. But I just going even like within like both sides of my family are Mexican, but I just remember because I'm lighter complexion and because I had my hair short, and because I'm a first generation, so I don't speak Spanish most fluently. I don't, ride horses. Or I didn't work on a ranch or anything like that, like my extended family. But they would kind of like, extended family, especially like distant cousins and everything. Like, oh, you're not really Mexican. Like, look at you, wearing baggy jeans and shit. Like, like you're not Mexican. And then when I would, try and hang out with like white friends at school, well, you're not really white either. So I remember kind of like being in between those both worlds too. Because even like the Mexican friends at school, a lot of them were darker skinned than me, and a lot of them had like grew up on working with animals or whatever they did. And I remember I just felt like I was in between both worlds because I wasn't Mexican enough to be part of the Mexican group, and I wasn't white enough to be part of the white group. So, what was I,
And it's just, man, why do we have to go through such extremes just to let somebody be themselves, right? Why do we have to tell them, oh yeah, society won't accept you because you're this. Society won't accept you, which is the truth. It is the truth. Society will not accept you no matter what you try. Like for example, I've had like I have a few other Asian friends. Ben is one of my close ones, and people will be like, oh yeah, does their house this and this and this, and I'm like, why does that matter? Why should it matter what the person looks like? They're a good person. That should just be all that counts, right? But people don't think like that. They just fall into certain stereotypes, and then they just keep pushing those stereotypes, and then that's when the racism comes, the prejudice becomes, and then everything just keeps following with it. So then your parents, they have to protect you in a way, right? So you don't fall into that category. Yeah. Like my mom always made sure like every 2 weeks I got a haircut. Every 2 weeks without fail I had a haircut. Now when I grew my hair, she was like, you're not gonna live in my house. And I was like, you sure about that? And then she was like, I'm wait till you fall asleep, I'm gonna cut your hair. I'm like, you could try, right? Yeah. That's me talking to my mother, right? Yeah. And then one day she woke up, she's like, let me do your hair for you. That was like out of nowhere, right? Yeah. She started understanding. She knows that, she knows who I am as a person. She knows because I have my hair does not mean that I'm gonna go out and rob a bank. Yeah. I'm not gonna go out and hold somebody up. I'm not gonna go out. I don't care about all that, man. All I care about is being me and being a happy person. Yeah. But people don't see that. They just see what they want to see, what the media is telling them. Because the media always tells them, hey, you see this person with dreads or whatever, Latin or Asian, either in a gang or they're out to cause harm. Right. They don't ever show the good side of it. And
or they'll emphasize on certain things that don't need to be emphasized on.
Correct. Right, which is why we always fit the profile. Right?
Why does it matter that I have my hood up? Yeah. Why does it matter that I'm dressed a certain way? Yeah. Like this is freedom of speech. The way you dress is freedom of speech. Right. But you know what's even more crazy too, is that I got that same treatment at home. But it's crazy because when you're Mexican, it's like I don't know. I'm really big on this too, and I wanted to touch up on when you said what grinds my gears. But this is my biggest pet peeve. Are we addressing racism in our culture too as much as we're addressing white racism? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Are we addressing racism? Is it the white man that we're having issues with? Right. Or is it racism as a whole? For me, it's racism as a whole.
As a whole.
Yeah. And it disgusts me because I fall for it too. Mm-hmm. I fell for it. One of my coworkers, tall white dude, bald, older gentleman, very proper, super nice. I always knew him. I always knew of him as the Trump supporter, but never really got to know him. Right. And I'll never forget. We were getting off at the same time. We worked in two different departments at this time. He pulls out. He has a Trump sticker his white F-150.
Yeah.
And the anger that rushed through my head
Yeah.
without even knowing the guy.
Right.
The anger that rushed through my head, down to my feet. I'll never forget it. And I went home, irritated me. And it's crazy because I think God and the universe or whatever you want to believe in will put you in certain situations to show you certain things.
Right.
A couple months later, I ended up working with him. Same department. Didn't want to. I didn't want to. I wasn't invested into that relationship. Didn't want to be invested.
Right.
Little did I know that was me, to a certain extent, being racist.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, it was me not being.
Prejudice,
It was me being prejudiced. I'll tell you what. This guy gave me so much game. Put money in my pocket.
Damn.
Did everything he possibly could to see me succeed as an individual.
Right.
Damn.
And it blew my mind because he, put it this way, I have money in the stock market. He told me, put money now, watch this stock blow up.
Damn.
Boom, did it. Crazy. Did he have to do that? No, he didn't.
Nah.
Did he have to give me game on anything? Nothing at all. But because of my prejudice, because of the way that I saw certain things in a certain manner, it held me back from so much more opportunity.
Yeah.
That's how I used to be too when it came to people that wear MAGA hats and all that. Like
Yeah.
every time I saw them, I used to be mad. And then I looked at it, I was like, wait, I have my own opinion. Why can't they?
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Exactly.
Why can't you speak on how you feel, represent, like you want to support who you want to support? By all means, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to tell you who to believe in.
Oh yeah.
And essentially, I think it's bigger picture. It's divide and conquer, right? None of us came from families of generational wealth or people who are in power. None of us have family members in politics or anything like that.
Nope.
So they do that to us. I've learned because I majored in communications and in journalism, but I remember learning like throughout like movie and cinema and TV history, they've always put symbols of like, hey, like they're gonna have this one black character on the show and they're gonna do this, this, and that. So now every white suburban family who never lives around black people, especially in the 60s and 70s when there were things more secluded, you know, they know that's what they think black people are, and they divide them. And, you know, the minorities, they think, you know, Asians are a certain way, and they think blacks are a certain way too when they watch certain shows. And I just think that kind of keeps people like closed-minded opportunities or closed-minded thinking of certain other races, and they think stereotypes are true, and they just think people are a certain way without giving them a chance to let them speak for themselves. Because just what 80 said earlier, I think is so true too, man. There's a lot of extended family that really bugs me, how they have certain feelings about Asian people, about black people, about people of all different ethnicities, and I'm just like, wow, like you guys really think like that, like that's crazy. And it is something. So it's not just the white racists and the white people, like the people who are oppressing us, but there's other areas of racism that needs to be attended to throughout this movement. And it can't just be a trend. It can't just be for a couple of months. It can't be for a couple of weeks. It needs to be like lifetime. You know, it's a lifetime's work to try and redo these wrongs.
I grew up in an open cultured house. Like my mom, like she was a nurse. She worked for God knows how many people, right? And there was this one Jewish lady, may she rest in peace. Every time we'd go to her house, she would like, people would come over her. It's like, who's this kid in your house? Because my mom was working, so she had no babysitter, so we had to be in the lady's house. People would come in, they'd be like, who's this kid you have in your house? Like they said in a way like you could tell, like, who's this black kid in your house? And the ladies be like, that's my grandson. You know, mind you, old Jewish lady, and she's like, no, that's my grandson. Like you're not gonna talk to him like that.
Yeah.
And you know, ever since that, I think that was one of the moments. I was in 7th grade at the time. That was the moment my mind opened up to more possibilities, because like just because certain white people are racist doesn't mean all of them are.
Right.
Because there are some that are really out there trying to help everybody else grow. They try to use their voice to amplify our voices.
Yeah.
Right. And we need to find a way to connect more with those people, because then if we keep like going in our own groups, you know, like we've been doing for the past decades that we've been doing, if we keep doing that, then we're not going to get any results.
Yeah.
So we need to find those people, find a way to get their voices and our voices together, so that way we can make the change that we need to make, because we're not going to get the diverse change that we need unless people stop being prejudiced or assuming just because somebody's white they follow Trump, or it's because we're black we love Obama. I mean, a lot of black people didn't like Obama. I can tell you straight up.
Yeah.
You know? Obama was a great guy. Like, he was the first black president. To me, my first black president was Bill Clinton. And I'll tell you right now.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
You know, so you got to believe in what you want to believe in.
Right.
You know?
Mac, the biggest problem that I have with that story is that why is that any of their concerns to begin with?
It's the world
You know
we
what
live
I mean?
Yeah.
That taught you a great lesson. It opened up your eyes. That's a very good thing that happened. But why is that any of their business to even begin with?
Yeah.
Like, why can't they just mind their own business? Knowing that you're there.
But if you think about it, I'm a black kid. She's an older lady. My mom is black. She's working for them. What do they think?
Yeah.
My mom is scheming. I'm stealing on the side. Right? That's what the media tells them. What roles do black people play in movies? Gangbangers, drug dealers, killers.
Criminals.
You have it.
Criminals.
What do Latinx people play? Cartels.
Cholos.
You know, cholos, vatos, all of them, right? So if you think about it, the white people are always like the professors or the teachers or the house,
cops,
the
investigators.
cops,
The good
the people who
The good guy.
the house, the people who bring the house together, right?
Damn,
You-
black women are the maids.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Come on,
why?
make me a lawyer or something.
Yeah.
You ever watch that movie with the what's his name? The guy with the eye. Can't remember his name, but he played a butler for a president. The movie was called The Butler. You should check it out. But if you think about it, he was.
Are you talking about Forrest Whitaker?
Yes, Forrest Whitaker.
you
He
go.
played the butler. And the thing, why we have to be butlers? Why we have to be maids? Why can't we just, do what we're known, what we can do, So it's just, that's one of the reasons why people don't know how to mind their own business. They just see something and they react rather than thinking.
Have you guys ever seen that movie Gran Torino?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love this story. Have you two seen it?
No, I haven't.
Because I don't.
No, I haven't
You
seen
cool
it
with that
either.
if I spoil like a little bit of the
Oh,
plot?
take it away.
But it's a beautiful story for those of you who haven't seen it and listening. I recommend you check it out because it's a story of this older white dude. I believe he served in the military, right?
Yep.
And he served
I
in
think he served in
he
Vietnam.
served in the Vietnam War, and his suburb, where the neighborhood he lives in, has become
Asian
increasingly Asian population. So he's really angry about that. I think he's not. What do you call it? A widow because his wife died.
My wife died.
So his wife died in the movie, and it's this powerful story because this kid who's a neighbor to him, is a young kid, like 13, 14, a good kid, but he doesn't want to get caught up with his cousins who are in a gang. But the gang cousins they tell him to go steal his car. He catches him stealing his car. He's like, "Why are you doing this? This is not really you." Makes the kid work for him, and through that they develop this really close bond. And I don't want to spoil the ending since you two haven't seen it, but it's really cool because he ends up hating, or in the beginning he hates the Asian population that's in his neighborhood. He thinks it's ruining them, especially because of his background fighting in Vietnam. But then he just takes his kid under his wing, teaches him how to work with his hands and different things. And then he ends up going to, I think, their Thanksgiving. Yeah. And he has duck for the first time, and everyone's super welcoming to him. And he just learns about their Vietnamese culture. Or I don't even know if they're Vietnamese, but he learns about their Asian culture when he goes over to their Thanksgiving. And it's a super good movie, and the ending's even more heartwarming. It's sad a little bit, but it's a beautiful movie that I think everyone should see because that's what I talked about earlier. Is just getting that perspective of other people,
But do you know how many movies give you that?
Yeah.
Let's go to Coach Carter. Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Why should we have movies like that to teach you if you're not learning anything about it, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember I played Remember the Titans for my football team, right? It was raining, so we couldn't do practice.
Yeah.
So we sat in the classroom, we watched Remember the Titans. And my kids were like, I didn't know this was happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you learning in school? Mind you, these are my 8th graders.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you learning in school? I don't know. Underground Railroad. That's it. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. All right. We have all these powerful movies that literally teaches you how to understand somebody, their background and stuff, because you put two diverse groups and they became together. They became brothers.
Yeah.
Right? And Remember the Titans, they did that. And Coach Carter, he was like, I don't see race. I don't see none of that. I just see basketball players. Right?
Yeah. When
When you're on the court, you're brothers. Once you're off the field, whatever you do, that's your business. But once you're on that court, you're my responsibility.
Yeah.
So if one of you guys get hurt, I want you to go over there and pick him up. I don't care what race he is, you pick him up. That's what we need to do for each other. Pick each other up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or you know what? One of the things I'm really grateful for in my household was that my parents never raised me off of race. My parents raised me off culture.
Right.
Right.
So it's embracing. My mom always told me, like, it's about embracing the culture.
Right.
It's, it's about embracing the things that you don't understand. Now don't get me wrong. When like I decided to do my hair and all that crazy stuff, my mom was all for it, my dad was all for it, but it was the outsider family. When I go to Mexico, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a culture shock for them.
Who's this Vato Negro?
Yeah, like or they'll start calling me Bob Marley.
Oh,
But I'm just like, oh, great, yeah, great. I'm Bob
Cool.
Marley because I have dreadlocks. Great,
No,
cool.
ignorant.
Yeah, as long as I'm a peace symbol, that's all that matters to me.
That's all
But
that matters.
but yeah, like they'll clown me for it or whatever. But man, like I think that's one of the things I'm most grateful for in my family is that they raised me on that. Not saying that there still isn't backlash to it, because there's backlash to it, but my parents did a really good job with having me understand that we're loving culture.
Right.
We're not loving race. Like race is, like you said, a lot like religion. It's meant to divide. It's meant to separate. We're not really understanding each other when we use the word race, I think. So
Right.
Can we just say we're all the human race?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only race I know.
The only race I know.
Yeah.
But with you speaking about going back to Mexico, I feel like we should segue into our next piece of the program. ICE,
Yeah.
yeah,
Immigration, Customs Enforcement.
yeah,
Right. So they've been putting little kids, grown adults who technically have every right to this country as anybody, right, behind bars. And that's been stirring in me when I say for a month and a half. It's been bothering me for a while when it started in Arizona when Obama was in office. It was bothering me back then too. But now people are talking more about it, right? And then it's just like they're still seeing it. They're just still turning a blind eye to it. People are like, oh yeah, what did they do to deserve it? They're kids. What do kids have to do for them to literally get put behind cages?
yeah,
Like for me, as someone who come from a third world country, right? If my parents didn't come here, my mom technically just recently got her citizenship, right? Recently. So if you did that, if you could do that to my mom or to my child or to me, people need to think, how would you feel if that was your child, right? You putting a young baby, a older person behind bar, and then you have COVID out there, and they're all clustered in one little area. So the sick are not separated from the healthy, so everything is spreading.
Yeah.
People are getting mumps, COVID, you name it. Like that to me, that's just ridiculous.
yeah. It's crazy.
My question is that what did they do to deserve this?
Well, I think my biggest issue is what was ICE originally meant to do here, and it was to keep, from my understanding, it's to keep the bad people out, obviously.
Right.
Immigrations, customs,
cartels,
all that.
right.
And like you said, this has been going on forever.
Yeah.
This has been an ongoing issue. This isn't just the Trump administration. This was the Obama administration at one point too. You look at numbers, and this is crazy because I did this, and I've heard it was a little rumor that was going around, but I did and it's true, and it sucks. But the Obama administration deported and separated more families than the Trump administration did. And that's super hard for me to say because the media has a way of twisting things.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to believe it when I heard it. I did my own research, and it's true.
Right.
And it sucks that it's like that, but it's been like that. And that's the issue, And I think that we just need to go back. Whenever I think of abolishing ICE, I don't want to abolish ICE. I want to reform ICE.
Yeah.
Right.
It needs to be reformed. It needs to be, you need to figure out what it is. So maybe, yeah, okay, great. So you want to come into this country illegally? So be it. Maybe do a background check.
Yeah.
Figure out how do we do a background check so we know that they're not coming here to steal or they're not here to run away from the problems that they have in Mexico.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what do we do when it's someone of color? As a Mexican, it's like this. I do some messed up stuff. Okay, you lost your citizenships. Go back to Mexico.
Right.
You know, or that's an option. Why is it an option?
Right.
You know? And so I think that we need to figure out how to reform ICE and to free these kids from cages. Right. You know? And I also asked that same question, is like, why? Mm-hmm. Why is this going on? And a lot of it is, so when you do some research on why people cross the border and how they do it, it's kind of shady and it's kind of freaky how they do it.
Yeah.
You know, like you hear all these stories and it's scary. Sometimes it's
deadly.
Yeah, it's deadly.
There's movies about that too.
Yeah, and there's this guy, and he's called the Coyote or the Coyote, and he's the one that kind of like helps you come to the other side. Mm-hmm. Now, as a Mexican or as anyone that's going to cross the border, you know that it's dangerous. You know that those are the things. So sometimes when ICE picks you up and you're in a crappy situation, that's kind of like what you want sometimes, because at least there you're going to be provided food, you're going to be provided a meal, and it's just crappy, because I've heard so many stories from my family in Mexico where it's just like, dang, dude, like what they would do to come over here and to have what we have, and deal with the racism, deal with all that other stuff. You can deal with that, but living in Mexico and knowing that you're probably not going to be able to live past the age of 50 because you don't have the right, the proper resources there either.
Right? Yeah.
You know, like Mexico falls just as short on the resources as here, but here it's probably going to be a little bit better, but you're just probably going to have to deal with a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially with the coyotes too. Like I've read stories where especially if you're a young woman and the coyotes bring you over, they'll technically sell you into the sex trade.
Yeah.
So
they'll take advantage of you for sure.
Right. So if you're a good-looking young woman, off automatically into the sex trade. If you're a kid, they put you in with a family that won't even appreciate you. They will beat you and make you do things around the house, treat you like pretty much a maid or a slave.
And mind you, too, these people aren't doing it for free out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it for a pretty hefty penny a lot of the times, too. Yeah. Charging an arm and a leg for these people to just even get a shot at this, climbing through sewers a lot, going through tunnels and like all kinds of stuff. I don't know if you ever seen the movie El Norte.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a powerful story too. It's two kids, right, that are trying to make their way all the way through Mexico, all the way to the U.S.
Or the classic Underneath the Same Moon. You seen that one?
I haven't seen that one, no.
If you guys had some time, Underneath the Same Moon.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Giving away a lot of good movies in this
episode.
Write them down.
Write them down, for real. We'll have it in the description.
Underneath the Same Moon was really good.
Yeah, but I just think it's crazy. This country that was built on immigrants, right? Like, we talked about it earlier. The natives had this land. They were living on here peacefully. A bunch of different natives tribes too. It wasn't just like one group. And Europeans, especially specifically from Britain, Great Britain, came here. They're technically immigrants. They like, hey, we're tired of these British people, so we're gonna become our own country. But again, they're like all our founding fathers, all the people on the dollar bills, they're all technically of like European descent, right? They're all colonizers. They're all slave masters too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Saying so. These people, like that we think are like I said, our founding fathers aren't even really American, and that's just been like a repeated like cycle, right? Like when the Irish came or when wanted to come, they were like, oh, we don't want the Irish, we don't want the Italians. They're gonna dilute what we have going on here, and eventually became the Chinese and now the Mexicans, and it's just I feel like it's always transitioning from one ethnic group or another, and it's heartbreaking to see all those kids in cages and just the way it's set up right now, and a lot of it's like worse than prison, how they're being treated.
Yeah.
And again,
dehumanizing.
And what do they do to deserve it? We can go in for like a whole 2 hours about what's wrong about the immigration system, but it's so difficult. I don't think people realize how difficult, because I hear a lot of ignorant comments on saying, why didn't they just come over legally? And I'm super grateful my grandparents were both able to get all their kids over here legally, but that's a very rare thing to do.
Right. Yep.
A lot of people that I met that are first generation, second generation, when I hear their stories, a lot of them couldn't do it legally. It's very hard to do things legally through customs and get papers for, especially if you have kids. If you want to bring kids over, now you have to, that's a bunch of more kids you have to worry about and get more papers. So it's a very challenging process that needs to be reformed, just like ICE does and everything. But it's just, it's heartbreaking to see the situation that we have in right now.
But if you think about statistics too, like going back back in, like, let's say next past 10 years, right? At least the percentage of people the Mexicans who sneak into this country, were about 15 to 20%, right? That's the low end, right? The amount of Mexicans who fly into this country were in the 70%, right? You think about this. Trump was saying he's going to deport all Mexicans, but what are you going to do with the 70% who flew into this country, right? Like the 15 to 20% that came through, you want to deport them. Make sure that you do a background check and make sure whatever you have to do. But the 70% who came in, they came in legally. They bought their plane tickets. They're traveling just like we could we could get a passport, get a plane ticket, travel to any country in the world, and they won't deport us, right? Same concept. Why do we have to look at them as unwanted immigrants rather than just people visiting a country and trying to figure out a way if they want to stay here and build a future for themselves however they see fit, But when I was doing my thing for this yesterday, they were saying that that a bunch of the kids, the babies, they're drinking out of unwashed bottles.
Yeah.
Unwashed bottles. You talk about inhumane, unwashed bottles.
Very unsanitary.
Right? Like they poop in the same area that they eat.
Yeah.
All that. Like it's cold. Like the facility is super cold, and they give them like little aluminum foils to cover them. What's that gonna do for them? And I don't know. I was just so mad at the whole situation that I can't bring myself to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's lots of emotion behind it too. I feel like that's part of the reason why I struggle with saying certain things, is because I don't ever want to react with emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
Emotion and feelings are temporary. Do we have a right to feel those things? Absolutely. But should we speak out on them personally? I don't think so until we have straight facts.
Right.
Like, I don't want to say something if I know that it's just an emotion speaking, But for me, the facts are there.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, my family, my family, the people of my color are still in cages. Like, the people of your color are getting gunned down on the street.
Right.
And we're not doing anything. We're here to take advantage of what it is that they preach and they praise.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I feel like now we have so much confusion. Like, where are we where are we as Americans?
Yeah.
And this goes back to the same question. And I still have to ask myself, what does it mean to me to be an American?
Right.
A Hispanic. What does it mean to me to be Hispanic in America? I'm taking full advantage of all my rights, and I'm not saying that I don't want to be here, because I would love to be here for the rest of my life, because it's an amazing country to live in. But like I said, it's the little things that we have to deal with. But those little things, you can only bottle them up for so much.
Right.
Like we're limited as to what it is we can do.
100%.
Just a quick question: Have you guys seen how they format or structure the cells?
And ICE?
Yeah,
No.
they're structured like jail cells, which is absolutely fucked because they haven't done anything to deserve that. Have you guys thought about the psychological trauma that anybody would go through if they're in there instead of out here like spending their times with their friends and doing whatever they want?
Yeah. What hurts me too is they get separated a lot. Kids from their parents and parents from their kids and vice versa. Siblings from each other's siblings. And like I was talking with like a mental health professional not too long ago, that there's the trauma that they're going to be suffering as an adults is going to be enormous, right? Because that's something that's relatively new to our culture and new to what's been going on, the whole cages and everything, what the conditions they're living in now. But in 10, 15, 20 years, when they're adults and they're going to have to relive those certain situations and have memories and flashbacks to that, that's going to be, more fucked up than, a lot of what like PTSD is, like from soldiers get back from going to war, that kind of stuff. That's going to be that level of stuff,
And that's for those who even make it out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because I feel like ICE and the prison system are systems that are designed to destroy us.
Right. They try to keep us under.
Yeah. I will say this. You mentioned a story about being quick to act with emotion. And I wanted to share a story that I haven't really shared with a lot of people. When I was going to Golden West College, I had a 96 Honda Accord with nice rims and a subwoofer. And my car got stolen when I was in a biology lab class. Those 3-hour classes that came out, my car got stolen. And I remember because my family, at the household, but extended family too, they just had negative views of Asians. And then I knew Golden West is right border to Westminster. So this is 19-year-old me, car gets stolen, and I'm furious. And I remember thinking, like, these were Asians who did this. These were Asian people who did this. And I was so, like, mad at that race for a long time. Not even a long time. It was, like, a couple weeks. Because I later found out when they found the car, it was in a Mexican neighborhood in Santa Ana. And still, I was still kind of, like on the fence. Like, I remember the cops told me, he's like, oh, this is, like, this is pretty common. Like, it's a Mexican gang does that around here. They've been stealing cars a lot, especially Hondas. And he told me that. I was like, like, it could be not. And then I remember 2 years later, I met someone who works with cars, and I told him my story. And I guess, small world, he went to high school with people from that gang that steal cars. And he's good friends with them. And I was like, wow, like, I was mad at Asian people, or just like a race, a group of people, because I thought they had stolen my car at the time.
Correct.
When I later learned it was my own people, you know? I think I don't know, that just tripped me out. And it got a lot of growth from that, for sure, like 100%. You can't judge people. You can't be, like you said, be quick to act on emotion. And you got to absorb things for what they are and consider all possibilities, you know?
Right. We just got to take a quick look in our reflection, you know, like, you know, we can't, like, for me, the same way I could sit here and talk with every single one of you, the same way I talk to anybody else that I see on the street, like black, white, whatever the race is. Because if I'm out there, I have that assumption that, hey, this person is there, they're going to do harm to me. That's the first thing that's what's going to happen to me. Karma, like, it's just things that you put into the universe, it absorbs it, and it sends it right back to you, right? So I'm one of those people, I like to look in the mirror first, especially if somebody does something really up to me, like I'm mad to the point where all I see is red. I find my center, look in the mirror, I talk to myself, all right, Mac, if this was you, how would you handle this issue? If this was you doing this, how would you? And then when I find out, or if it's somebody I do know, I have a conversation with them, like, hey, I didn't appreciate what you did, yada, 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 and so on and so forth, rather than for me to just use my emotion, all my anger that I have, because they probably could have escalated to something else, right? So it's best to look in the mirror, look at your reflection, center yourself, and then approach a situation rather than going head on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because, you know, with the movement and stuff going on right now, you can't just react off of emotion, because there's people out there that want you to react in a negative way. And then for myself, you know, black woman in America, if I react negatively, what are they going to label me as? A mad black woman, angry black woman.
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm not an angry black woman. The things that you're saying are making me angry, but I'm not going to react because that's what you want from me.
Exactly.
And I think we're starting to see this a lot more often too, is a lot of people of color starting to react better.
Right.
You know, like you're starting to see like the videos of the dudes and the women that are using hard R's, and then be like, yeah, man, all right, peace be with you, or hey, like okay,
have a great day.
And have a great day, you know.
They're smarter.
Yeah,
we're smarter at it.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it almost, it's almost crazy to me, because it's like we've come this far. Right. You know, we've come to not react to certain things, and I think that's so key. Is that when we react to certain energy, like, you're gonna get that back. Yeah. You know?
Oh, 100%.
Like whatever it is that you decide to put your energy into, like you have to expect something to come back from it.
Right.
You know? So for me, if I ignore the issue of someone calling me a wetback, or, you know, whatever it is, I know that it's not gonna, like, I laugh at it.
Yeah.
I genuinely will laugh at it. You can tell me whatever it is you want to do. And it's funny because most people, like, confuse me for for someone that's black, which makes me laugh even harder because I'm just like, I'm not even black to be.
You could be light skinned.
Yeah.
There you go. Join the club.
Yeah, and everyone was like, dude, like, I don't know, like, working at Nordstrom, helped me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because I've dead ass had people, I don't want your help, I want her help.
Damn.
And she's white. That's what it is.
Well, see, they expect minorities to like explode.
Yeah.
They don't want us to think for ourselves. They just want like emotions to just, because if you think about it, like, we could have a conversation with somebody, but we're so passionate about what we're talking about, people think we're yelling at them, right? It doesn't matter what we're saying. We're just talking about sports. Yo, man, yeah, Kobe dunked on this person. Why are you yelling at me?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just having a conversation. That's just how passionate I am about what I'm talking about.
Right.
But people, other races, they can't accept that minorities, we speak with such power, such intelligence behind what we say, because we just want to make sure our message is heard. But that's just us being us. We don't mean no harm. We're not trying to hurt you with our voices. We're not trying to even fight you. We just want to talk.
Yeah, and they
We're
look at
becoming more educated.
and they look at that as aggression.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're far from aggressive.
Right. So as we wrap things up, time for the final segment. Cut that shit out. Ben, Mac, one of you guys want to start it off?
So to the officers in Fort Hood, I need you guys to do better. Stop letting people disappear off your base. Cut that shit out, man.
With all that we talked about today, I feel like most people, the biggest problem about humanity and that we're living with is that the problem is that we listen to respond instead of listening to understand. So those of you guys that listen to respond, cut that shit out. Take a second, put on our shoes, see where we're coming from before you respond. Listen to understand rather than listen to respond. So cut that shit out.
Yeah, all of America, I just want to tell you guys, please stop telling my brothers and sisters that we look unprofessional in the workplace with our hair. Yes, we wear locks. Yes, we wear braids. Yes, we wear Bantu knots, but that's a part of our culture. We represent our culture, so stop saying that we look unprofessional in the workforce. So cut that shit out.
I'm trying to find this tweet really quick.
All right, I'll go for it then.
Yeah, go ahead.
To those who are so quick to jump to cancel culture, right now cancel culture is really big in our society, and I'm not saying it's not wrong, and maybe some people do deserve to be canceled, but I don't think everything needs to be canceled so fast. And I think it's what we're talking about today. We're reacting on emotion in the heat of the moment, and we're quick to throw people away, but no one's perfect. Everyone's made mistakes. I shared with you guys a story that I made a big mistake of judgment when I was 19 as a kid, but I'm not that person anymore. So I think no one's perfect. Anyone can grow from what they're currently at. It may be hard. It may take some time. Don't get me wrong. And some people are not willing to grow. Maybe those people do need to get canceled, but at least hear them out. So if you're just quick to jump on cancel culture just to ride the trend, and I think that's part of divide and conquering. So I need you guys to cut that shit out.
Yeah, I'm going to hop back on that. You know, cancel culture, you got to cut that shit out. Joey Badass said, cancel culture is dumb. You guys are basically normalizing that people can't make mistakes when the fact is nobody is perfect. And he couldn't have said that better. I get so weirded out by this, because how can you not make a mistake? How, like, why are you like digging in the past for people's mistakes to judge them on that now? Like, it makes no sense to me. So I'm still trying to figure that out. And I guess another thing, can I leave them with something?
Yeah, go ahead.
If there's one thing I really want to leave people with, is that it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. And I feel like it's also okay to be wrong. I feel like right now we're in such a time where we're so sensitive that we will say things and we won't have the real facts, you know, because we're still reacting on emotion, even though we're trying not to. I think that we need to start normalizing like mistakes. Have it be okay. Have it be okay that we can have this conversation, and then later on, maybe 2-3 years down the line, any of us could be wrong and still not have backlash because of it.
Right.
Normalize mistakes.
As long as you learn from it too.
100%. 100%.
Most definitely.